Sophia's heart raced as Robert said, "I just realized who your husband is." Her world tilted. He'd never seen her as his equal, but now everything had changed. This moment would flip her life forever. What happened next will shock even the toughest. But let's start from the beginning. Sophia Williams had worked tirelessly for years at one of New York's top law firms. Her reputation was impeccable, sharp, focused, and respected by colleagues and clients alike. She had earned her place at the table, proving herself through countless high-stakes cases, often stepping into roles no one else dared to touch. Yet when the time came to move up, to claim the senior partner position that seemed almost predestined for her, Robert Matthews, her boss, dismissed her without hesitation. The justification? A glaringly unfair critique of her lack of experience managing high-profile clients. It was a comment that stung, but more than that, it left a bitter taste of disappointment. Sophia had handled cases of equal, if not greater, complexity and importance than anyone else at the firm. But Robert, who had always been quick to extend opportunities to his white male colleagues, had never considered her on equal footing. Her anger surged, but she did what she always did, pushed it down. She knew this feeling well, this recurring sting of being overlooked, passed over, dismissed. Every time it happened, it hurt just a little less. But this time was different. This time, the sting wasn't fading into resignation. This time, it felt sharp, raw, and inescapable. She had worked harder than anyone to prove her worth, and yet the game was still rigged. What was the point of all that effort if it was always going to be overshadowed by factors beyond her control? The thought gnawed at her, the familiar weight of systemic barriers pressing down harder than ever before. As she sat in her office, the silence heavy with the absence of the promotion she'd expected, she realized something. This wasn't just about the job. It wasn't just about Robert, or even the firm. This was about being seen, or rather, not being seen, for who she truly was. And it was becoming harder to ignore. Months passed, and Sophia threw herself into her work, determined to remain unshaken by Robert's dismissive treatment. She had grown used to navigating the undercurrents of office politics, but something about his refusal to even acknowledge her potential still stung. Yet, she kept her focus. She was good at what she did, and she was going to keep proving it, no matter what. Then, one evening, everything changed. It was at a corporate gala, a night meant for celebration and schmoozing, but instead, it became a turning point. From across the room, Sophia spotted Robert laughing, his posture relaxed, as he chatted with an older man. His companion's laughter was rich and smooth, the kind of laugh that carried weight. There was something about the interaction that unsettled her, something too familiar, too comfortable. She couldn't put her finger on it, but an icy shiver ran down her spine. What was going on here? The unease gnawed at her all through the night. The next day, as she sat in her office, trying to push the discomfort aside, Robert called her in for a meeting. His tone was casual, almost overly so. He told her she was a valuable member of the team, and went on to give his usual speech about how she was still not quite ready for the senior partner position. She nodded, the words not registering as they once might have. But it wasn't until she turned to leave, about to return to her work, that he dropped the bomb. "Oh, by the way, Sophia," Robert said, a thin smile crossing his lips. "I just realized who your new husband is. Didn't expect that, did you?" Sophia froze, her hand on the doorknob, heart pounding in her chest. Her mind raced. She had never told anyone at the firm about her marriage to Dr. Charles Mitchell, the prominent philanthropist and lawyer who had made waves in the city's elite circles. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Robert's sudden shift in demeanor wasn't because of her accomplishments or her dedication. It was because he had recognized who she had married. The weight of that knowledge came crashing down on her. He was now seeing her for the first time, not as a colleague, but as a gateway to power. And just like that, her value was redefined, not by her work, but by her connections. The truth stung deeper than she had imagined. Sophia stood frozen in Robert's office, her mind whirling in disbelief. She had fought tooth and nail for every inch of respect in this firm, but what she just realized hit harder than anything before. For years, she had been striving to be recognized for her work, her dedication, and her ability to lead, never wanting to be seen through the lens of race. But now, in an instant, she understood. She had never truly been seen at all. Her marriage to Dr. Charles Mitchell, a man with immense influence and wealth, was the only thing that had changed the game. Robert hadn't seen her for her brilliance. He had only seen a strategic opportunity. She was nothing more than a pawn in a chess game of power, a tool to elevate his position. The rage inside her was like a physical force, something she could feel in her bones. Robert had never given her a real chance, but now, with the right connections, she had value. Now she was someone worth paying attention to. The truth was a slap in the face. She had been pushed aside for years, dismissed as not quite enough. And only now, when the benefits of her relationship with Charles were apparent, did Robert show any real interest. He had always been calculating, always focused on how things could work for him. The realization of just how expendable she had been stung in a way she couldn't put into words. Sophia turned on her heel and stormed out of the office, her hands shaking with pent-up fury. She held back the tears, unwilling to let them fall. This wasn't about weakness. No, this was about taking control, about rewriting the narrative that had been thrust upon her. The fire that had ignited in her chest now burned with a singular purpose. This wasn't just personal anymore. It was about showing Robert, and everyone else who'd ever doubted her, that she was more than just a connection. She was a force in her own right. And from that moment, she knew. It was time to make them all see. Sophia moved swiftly, using every connection and every bit of leverage she had accumulated over the years. She reached out to former clients, colleagues, and allies, people she had helped, trusted, and nurtured professional relationships with. Soon, a network of powerful figures began to gather around her. They knew what Robert Matthews had done, and they weren't willing to let his underhanded tactics slide any longer. Word spread quickly. Whispers turned to conversations, and the pressure on Robert grew unbearable. Within weeks, his reputation had shattered. The firm's board, faced with a growing public outcry and a brewing PR disaster, had no choice but to make a move. Sophia, on the other hand, had solidified her position as senior partner, not just within the firm, but as a symbol of change. The media attention flooded in, but Sophia made one thing clear in her public statements. This victory was hers, and hers alone. It wasn't about her marriage to Charles. It was about her work, her persistence, and her fight for fairness. She had rewritten her own story, taking control of a narrative that had once been twisted against her. And now, everyone would know it.